Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. And John here from Wild Boar Cycling and
Brian.
And got a guest here today from visiting from the East Coast. One of my teammates, John, who is thinking about a gravel bike. So Brian and I thought, well, good opportunity to sit here and talk about some of our collection, about what we like and why we're doing these kind of machines. How's that sound, guys?
Sounds good.
But my thought as I was preparing this episode was, I wish I had that stump jumper back from the early 80s, because I'd have put some drop bars on it, some skinnier tires, and oh, that would have been a great gravel bike. Okay, folks, all right, we'll sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, hey, so John, you want to talk about gravel bikes? We got a lot of gravel-ish adjacent bikes. You know, the first question that you always got to ask about this is, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, racing days are over, so I won't be racing. But looking forward, I live in Massachusetts, so I'm looking forward to just joining a lot of guys that are riding up in Vermont. So it's a lot of gravel, it's a lot of roads that are gravel, because they have a lot of gravel. And then just in Massachusetts, you know, a lot of hills and a lot of descents and a lot of flat farmland.
Cool. So it sounds like you got a road bike background, right?
I do,
Okay.
yes.
So definitely drop bars, you know, you're not looking for a mountain bike, you want gravel.
Right.
You know, John, not you, that John, you know, he's kind of always top of the line kind of guy. And, you know, I guess this isn't top of the line, but it's pretty close. This is a pure gravel bike, built that way, sold that way, truck checkpoint, which the new ones, they've diverted. There's now the checkpoint, and then they started the Checkmate, which is far more like racy oriented, and the checkpoint they've taken to be a little more adventure-y.
Okay.
But I mean, this is carbon frame, carbon wheels, wireless SRAM shifting. It's pretty fancy by power meter. And you know, this is a super duper capable bike. And for me, when I think about a gravel bike and what to do, it's all about the tires. And what are you gonna do with it? And how much do you care about tires? You know, that's really the difference between a gravel bike and a road bike, is basically how big a tires can you put in it. I mean, there's other nuance about geometry and stuff like that, but really it's the tires.
Right.
And so, trying to think, what's the checkpoint? What's this rated at? 42 centimeter tires? 45s?
I've got 45s on
45s? And you got a little more room.
So the limiting factor then is going to be the chain stay, the back stays.
Yeah, it's almost always the space between the chainstay. It's almost always what limits it.
And then the fork as well.
And the fork. Okay. When usually the forks have more room, you know, because coming from, I'm assuming, a road bike background, when there was still rim brakes, it was always the brake caliber what limited your tires.
Right.
And
very true.
With gravel bikes, it's almost always the chainstay clearance. And I mean, you know, I tend to not follow the rules. I'd put a way bigger tire on this than that. You know, I'd put 2.2-inch mountain bike tires or something.
But you could do that, John, right?
50.
It would fit. Okay.
We've seen people put 50.
50 mil. And you know, you could probably fit bigger than 50, but then you're getting outside of the specs that like Trek says you're supposed to put in it.
Right.
And so like if you like the cushiness, if you like big tires, you know, it depends, like when they say gravel, like what does that mean, right? Is it like big chunky actual gravel? Is it smooth hard pack fire roads? And again, that's going to determine what tires you want.
Right.
To contrast this, my Raleigh here, this is a cyclocross bike.
Okay.
I welded up a steel frame a couple years ago, early on in the channel, and right before a big ride we were gonna do, I found my C-stay was cracked. And so I had like a couple of weeks to figure out I gotta get a bike going, and so I picked this frame up and switched all my parts over.
Oh, okay.
And you know, these are 33 mil tires.
All right.
They mic out, they measure 36. And I don't think I could get anything bigger than
Yeah,
this.
you're pretty limited
It's really tight in there. But I also like to underbike. I mean, I take this thing where guys won't ride a hardtail mountain bike. You know, they insist on having full suspension, and I'll take this bike on it.
Oh, okay.
I don't mind the small tires. It kind of makes it more fun for me. It's slow, but you know, if you don't mind not having the right bike for your ride, you can get away with a cyclocross bike. And you know, you can get some really good deals on them because, you know, this is a 2017, and it's disc brake. Finding a road bike disc brake 2017, you know, it's not a lot of those.
Yeah.
But now this is an 8-year-old bike.
So I'm a little familiar with Sonoma County, Annandale, Jack London, and I can't think of the other one across the valley.
Sugarloaf?
Mount Hood. Mount Hood.
Yeah, Hood,
So
yeah.
where do you go? Where
So I'll take this on the outside loop of Annandale.
okay.
So the Canyon Trail to Richardson.
Right.
And I will take this with these tires
Okay.
on that.
Great.
It's not as much fun if I take my other bike, but it's fine. It's doable.
Okay.
You know, you got to know how to use your body as suspension if you're running 33 mil
33s.
tires
Yeah,
on something
yeah.
that people want mountain bikes
Okay.
on. But it's doable. And the carbon, you know, kind of absorbs a lot of that chatter too. But I'm running GRX on here, at least for the crank. I do have a GRX derailleur, but I switched it out for just a regular Road 105 derailleur.
I see.
So there's a bit of chain slap, but that doesn't bother me too much. And then to contrast, my other bike, this is a recent build. You know, this isn't a gravel bike advertised. It's a touring bike. But what's the difference, right? Not a whole lot. I was getting annoyed with my disc brakes, and so I wanted to go back to rim brake, but I wanted to keep gravel capacity. So I found this frame, super duper sale, because I think they stopped making them. But, you know, these are, I think I just measured them, they might get it like 42 mil or something. And I could definitely get
Yeah, you've got
up in
a lot
the
of
2.25 inch mountain bike tires on there, which I might do when these tires wear out. But this thing will do anything. Like, you know, unless, you know, as long as I'm not trying to go downhill really fast, this will handle anything. And with the tires, they're running tubeless, even though they're not tubeless rims, just drop the pressure down and it'll handle lots of stuff. And because it's steel, a lot of the vibration just goes away. But I mean, you know, like this is a big spread of what you're gonna do, and they're all capable. And it's, I mean, the biggest difference I would think is comfort and speed. That's kind of what you sort of need to choose from, I would think.
Right. So what I'm hearing is it's important, unless you really know exactly where you're going, it's important to find something that gives you the versatility for tire size.
Absolutely.
So go up to 48, or
Yeah.
you know, you can always run a 33 if
Yeah.
you needed to, depending on where you're going. So if you're not adverse to changing out tires, then you buy a bunch of tire sizes, and
Yeah.
if you are, you buy some wheels, and you just,
I mean, both of these bikes have 2 wheel sets. These are my Rowdy wheel sets. I have road wheel sets for both of these bikes. And I mean, that's one of the nice things. It's easier to do that on disc brakes. It's cheaper to do that on rim brakes.
of course.
Because rim brake wheels are a dime a dozen
Right,
these days.
of course. Of course.
But yeah, it's definitely, you know, you need to get a bike that can handle as much as you think you're going to want out of tires.
Right.
And I mean, some of the gravel bikes these days, they're specking out to be like almost 2.5 inch mountain bike tire clearance, which I feel like that's a lot of tire.
Yeah, it is.
But, you know, for
Gives
me,
you
like,
versatility.
yeah. But we did Steamboat a couple years ago in Colorado, Steamboat Springs gravel race. And I had been running these tires on my bike, and then John talked me into, not that John, bigger tires. He said, oh, those aren't gonna be big enough for you. And so I ran like 36, at least like labeled. They probably more like 37, 38. And after that ride, I would have gone smaller tire. They were more than big enough.
Yeah.
And I would probably, if I do that race again, not that they have that same course, I'd probably run it on like 33s or 34s.
But if you don't know what you're getting into,
yeah, that's the thing is you don't know what you're getting into, and then you kind of got to look ahead.
yeah.
I know I'm not mic'd up, guys, but I want to talk about the 45s here and moon dust, if you would talk about
Oh yeah, moon dust. I don't know what it's like in New England as far as gravel is, but around here we get some of it. It was really bad or very prevalent in Colorado is moon dust, which is the really, really fine silts that, it's like the consistency of powdered sugar. And I know John had experience, what race was that? Where I was that?
It was up in Sisters.
Up in the Sisters, yeah. Were these tires,
Atascadero, yeah.
in case you guys didn't hear that, Atascadero, these tires handle the moon dust really well.
Wider, softer.
Yeah, water soft. And I think some of the tread pattern, I mean, you really got to geek out a little bit about tires if you're going to be specific. I don't know, what are you thinking?
Well, what are the cost of tires?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like I'm really frugal and I shop around for deals, but I look to spend, if I can get a tire for under $90, that's probably a good deal. And so that's usually, I mean,
So they're as expensive as a road tire.
oh yeah. Sometimes they're cheaper than road tires, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but yeah, they're right around just under $100 for good ones.
You want to mention the rollingresistance.com, and I'll put a link in.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to be a little bit of a tire geek, and I don't. Do you ever go to Rolling Resistance bicycle tire rollingresistance.com?
No.
It's a website where these guys have this test rig, and they test rolling resistance of all these tires, and they post.
So you can go get your information from there.
You can go look at a specific tire model, and it'll tell you the rolling resistance of it.
But they don't sell tires.
They don't sell tires. They just tell you the data.
Nice.
And I mean, there's like paywalled where you got to get a subscription if you want more data, but they've got free data too. And I like those tires aren't on there yet because they're new. But I tend to make my tire purchase choices. I've steered clear of WTBs since I started looking at that website because they're always at the bottom as far as, rolling resistances goes. They're very bad rolling resistance, WTBs are, even though a lot of people like them for gravel stuff. I just don't make a lot of watts and I can't sacrifice them to tires.
Right.
Other things that come to mind, John?
Well, you had mentioned you had a cross bike, and we're looking at a pure gravel bike here. I had read or heard that the geometry, the bottom bracket is raised on is it the same will we find the same on the cross bikes?
I mean, a lot of that you got to really dig into the numbers of the posted. So I'll be general. Cyclocross bike versus a gravel bike, in my experience of what I've seen, have steeper head tubes.
Okay.
And so they are way more road bike fork geometry. And gravel bikes tend to have a little slacker. Like this is a 73, I think, which is pretty steep.
Yeah.
Gravel bikes tend to be more like 70 or even into the high 60s. Bottom bracket, I think on the cyclocross bikes, the bottom brackets are higher for clearing over the jumps and stuff.
Right.
They drop the bottom brackets on gravel bikes to get the center of gravity lower so you're more stable. The other thing to think about is, and this all depends on your needs and your desires. A lot of people started running dropper seat posts on gravel bikes. Cyclocross bikes, because you shoulder it, the top tubes are really high. And so you might not, because my bike,
I see that.
I don't have a whole lot of, I couldn't put a dropper seat tube on, but you could maybe get one on here.
Right.
And so that's the thing, if you're thinking about doing that, which can be really helpful in a sense, the cross bike might not be the way to go.
Good.
Well, John, I know that most of the time when these questions get answered, it just makes more questions. And so I hope we were able to give you some insight about picking out a gravel bike.
Yeah, definitely. And having seen all the different options of what you have and what John has it's really helpful, and I hope it helps other people as well.
Yeah. Thanks for listening all the way to the end here. And like always, after you like and subscribe and do all the notify stuff, go out and ride, have fun, and keep the rubber side down.
Excellent. Thank you.